Good morning, everybody. It feels very different to be in this big, giant room than me pacing late at night and early this morning to try to prepare for this talk. But I appreciate that you're all here. Let's take two. Okay. So first, a little look at the audience. There was about 22 people that responded to a survey that I did in the app. The average confidence, self-assessed confidence level, and how effective the respondents think that they are at making effective support tickets is now, I think, 3.8, which is relatively high. I think it maybe stands to reason that that folks that are passionate enough about this product to come to memoQ Fest are probably on the higher tier of the skill spectrum and experience spectrum as well. The emotions are perhaps more telling. I have been there too. I'm going to come back to the emotional part of it because I think it's a very important part of the process when you're trying to ask for help for something. So this is what you all hope to get out of this session. So I reviewed these, and I hope I'll be able to deliver on all these fronts. I will make the slides available after the fact, so in case there's something you don't have to feel like you have to frantically take notes. Plus, there's a recording. A little bit of background. I work at Nintendo of America. I've been there for 17.5 years in the same department. I started off as a technical translator, mostly translating developer documentation from Japanese into English, about 16 million words worth. Then I became a localization engineer, brought memoQ into Nintendo, became the lead memoQ guy at Nintendo, and then since then I've become a technology manager. So I have 2 software engineers in my team and a localization engineer, and together we create integrations, and we try to blend the technical aspects, what machines are really good at, and what humans are really good at, in a relatively harmonious way. Nintendo and memoQ have a very close relationship, for which I'm very grateful. We've been partners for 9 years now. We meet regularly, and it's been a true collaboration, unlike the relationship that we had with the various tools that we used in the past. And yeah, brief run. The support team does a really great job. I wrote a lot of tickets, and I'm very grateful to the support team. So I don't know if there's folks that either work in support now or previously worked in support. Maybe you can briefly stand up and we can recognize your efforts. I do a lot of support myself. It's not very glamorous, sometimes underappreciated, but it's extremely important. This is a brief look at Nintendo's use of memoQ. I would say that we're bigger in terms of our scope of features that we're using, maybe than your average customer, but compared to larger LSPs, our volumes are very small. We have a mostly in-house team of about 30 translators, interpreters, about 6 project managers, and we juggle about 950 projects that are active at any given point in time in our group. Part of the reason for that is that Nintendo is a bilingual company. English and Japanese are the 2 official languages, and the company's operations are structured in a way that requires a high degree of collaboration between the European office in Frankfurt, our office in Redmond, Washington, and then Kyoto, Japan, where the headquarters is. We love memoQ, but there is no such thing as a perfect cat tool. So I personally have probably written more than this. I used to have direct access to Mantis way back in the day. There's probably another couple hundred tickets there, plus lots of emails, but almost 10,000 comments between Zendesk and Kayako, the previous system, combined between the memoQ team and Nintendo, so very high degrees of collaboration. What I wanted to point out about this is that for every ticket that me or my team write to the memoQ team, there's probably 25 or 30 others that me and my team avoid from memoQ having to see because we deal with them internally. We try to reach out only when we cannot find a path forward on our own. Yeah. memoQ, you may not know it, but on the memoQ Help Center, there is a very good page that has some guidance on best practices. I posit that not everyone is very well aware of it, so I wanted to take this opportunity to highlight this very good advice from the support team. I won't read them all, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of them. The third one on the left, one topic per request is exceedingly important. I have definitely been in a situation where I'm just having a rough day with a piece of software, and I just feel like firing off one email and just giving them a bulleted list of da-da-da-da. You should make yourself avoid doing that at all costs. It's just going to lead to disappointment for everybody. It's going to be tough to keep things straight. One will get resolved, and then you have to scroll all around, and everyone forgets what the ticket's even about. So you really, really need to have a die on that hill. And then the prioritize properly is also one that I wanted to talk about. We live and work in a very fast-paced industry where customers have very lofty expectations, and there's tight deadlines, and there's a lot of pressure. So it can feel, in the moment when we run into some bug, this is critical. It feels critical. That's not really what critical means. And if the priorities get abused, then it can tend to turn into a cry wolf type scenario. So critical really, in my opinion, and I think the memoQ team shares the same opinion, if you cannot use the software at all, you can't open it, there's a critical error, and you can't, all of your translation memories are gone. If you're running the server and the server won't start or is continually crashing, that is critical. That is complete work stoppage. Use that severity in that situation. Otherwise, if you're having really significant pain points, it's so slow, productivity drops a lot, that's urgent. Otherwise, it's probably normal priority. If you can find a way around it, and you all have to be creative in what you do, we all have to be really creative with workarounds and process design, then it's just normal priority. So just try to not abuse the priority system. And then I have some other practical tips that I wanted to share beyond it. The first one is just basically be nice. So, yeah. Going back to the emotions, so everyone, there was rage, there was, Christy maybe deserves a little shout out. I think he was the one person that was specifically named. I don't know where you're sitting, Christy, but take the emotion out of it, however you're feeling in the moment. You're frustrated, you're trying to accomplish something, but when you're writing the support ticket, don't be abusive. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, as they say. The second tip, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, then creating a sample project that directly reproduces the exact problem that you're having is worth at least 100,000 or 1,000,000 words. I don't think I have to tell you, memoQ is very complicated software. There's a gajillion different configuration files. There's so many different settings and templates. You could send an infinite number of different combinations of source content and filter configurations. So there's so much complexity there that it's not really possible to use a handful of sentences to describe most bugs. And the gold standard, really, if you want to get a fast result, is take a little bit of extra time to create a project that shows in a minimalistic way, as simply as possible, what the problem is. It does take extra time, but it's worth the effort. And you can collaborate with your colleagues if you're needing to run point on a client issue. Work with your coworkers if you have them, if you're not a freelancer, to try to find a way of making that happen. Also testing with the latest version. So some of us are up to date in terms of our SMA, some of us may not be. But I'd say the latest version, there's an LTS build, which is currently 10.2. Then there's a non-LTS build, which is 10.6 at the moment. Each of those is supported. The latest build of each of those is what you should be using. So if you are using, say, 10.2.16 now, and you run into a bug, you report it, the very first thing the support team is likely to tell you is, does this happen in 10.2.24, which is the latest? So before you even write the support ticket, upgrade to that, validate if it happens or not, and then you can tell them, yes, I'm using the latest build, and that'll get you a more positive response the first time around. And then tell memoQ what version you're using. If you're doing an online project, you need to tell them the version of the client, the specific build that you're using of the client and the server. Don't just say I'm using memoQ whatever, like 10.5. It's probably not quite enough. This next slide I borrowed from my wife, who used to be in the construction industry as a specification writer, and her boss told her the 4 C's: being clear, concise, correct, and complete. I think these are good guidance in general for technical communication. More words is not necessarily better. An adequate number of words that expresses correctly what the problem is using the right terminology. Briefly aside, as translators, as localization project managers, we all understand the importance of terminology for our translation projects, but I think many of us don't really consider when we're talking about the way that we use tools, use the actual proper terms for things. There are words that are ambiguous, like filter. Someone will say, oh, the filter is broken. Are you talking about in the translation grid at the top where you can filter on to show which segments are visible? Are you talking about a filter configuration? What actually you're using? So just try to use as clear language as you can. Then if there's the 4 C's, then there's the 4 D's. So when a bug happens, right, maybe you're just translating away and an error message pops up, and you really don't know what happened or why. And you could say, well, it's memoQ's job to figure that out. And it is, but you'll get better results if you put on your detective hat and be a little bit inquisitive about what just happened. So for example, I just attempted to confirm a segment, and I got an error message. OK. Capture that error message, document it away, and that's the start of your discovery process. What I do is I have a text editor open, and I just start writing observations, and it's happening in this project, is it happening over here? I end up writing a lot of text, which I do not send to memoQ. That's key. Take good notes, figure out what's happening. Can I reproduce it? Can I go to that same segment? Does it happen again? Was it a one-time thing? If I restart memoQ, does it still happen? Did I lose my license? If I restart my computer, does it still happen? These are the kinds of questions and experiments that you should run as curious individuals to try to help to get to where you want to be faster. So after you've experimented and you've documented the raw notes, then it's time to distill. And thanks to Adobe Firefly for the image of a distilled document, literally. Then it's time to boil it down into the minimalistic representation, the clearest possible way. Let's say you have 1 minute with a support engineer. You have more than that, but what would the elevator pitch be? How can you correctly and fully express the problem in as few words as possible? Is kind of the goal. The few words as possible thing is hard for me personally. I tend to see Emily smiling because she knows better than most. The next thing is, how many people have more than 10 open issues right now? Okay, a couple. We have 135. Many of those are just lower, a lot of those are lower priority things that just, we ran into a thing, so we're going to report it. And I'm not particularly pushing them. They're there because maybe they get fixed and it's not affecting us that much, and great. And I used to try to say, oh, there's these 20 issues, and I want to try to solve all of them. And my boss gave me some advice last year that has been proven to be really helpful, which is take your top 3. What's actually impacting your business the most? And push on that, which has helped us to really get a lot more done because we're not as distracted by all this other stuff. So really think about what's having the most material impact, not just what's annoying to you on a particular day, and I think you'll have better results. And then there's a little histogram of our status. So some of you wanted to know a template or what kind of sections should you include when you're writing a bug report. I personally prefer to use email and send an email to support@memoq.com because I don't have to worry about my browser crashing and me losing my work, because sometimes it takes a lot of effort to write these things. And it would generate a ticket in Zendesk. So in the title, best practice is put the priority and create a decent summary. Don't write empty problems. Don't write project broken. Do yourself and the memoQ team a favor by writing something that adequately expresses in a sentence what's going on. I have an overview section. Business impact, how is it actually affecting you? It's worth to take the time to think of that for yourself, and it helps the team to know how to prioritize it. For the details, do you guys know like the Goldilocks, it's this porridge is too hot, this porridge is too cold. I don't know whether that's told internationally, but there's a story called Goldilocks, and it's all about kind of finding a happy medium. So you don't want to write a novel that will make eyes glaze over, and you also don't want to say, I've gotten tickets assigned to me that are of the nature of the project is broken and I can't do anything. Which project? Which server? What document? Like, what are you even talking about? You gotta get the detail that ideal amount. When you get a specific error that causes there's an error screen, and then there's what we call a stack trace, which is a listing of the different functions in the sequence in which they were called. It looks unreadable and sort of scary to non-programmers, but there's blue text below it that says copy details to clipboard. You should always click that button and paste that into your ticket. Do not take a screenshot of it. That's not helpful. Usually the devs can't see the whole message, so send the entirety of it. The bonus by doing this and including this in your bug report is that your Windows operating system, your build for Windows, your exact memoQ version is all included in this handy little report, your .NET version, so you don't have to type that up. So do yourself a favor, include that. And then a screenshot, server logs. I happen to be a memoQ server administrator, so when I'm reporting a bug, I have access to the server logs. If you're a project manager, you may not necessarily have access to it, but if you're trying to troubleshoot a problem with an online project, you should go to your server administrator and get an excerpt of the logs from the time period in question. It's extremely important to help the memoQ dev team and the product managers and the support team understand what's happening behind the scenes with such a complicated architecture. And then on the right, I have some things that I include less commonly, but internal notes. So it might be that you report a bug and you know exactly what project and what document and what segment you were working on when you write the ticket. And then the ticket sits for a few months because it's not particularly high priority. And then the memoQ team will get around to it, and they'll say, oh, have you tried checking this setting? And then you go back to it and you say, oh, what was I doing again? So do yourself a favor by leaving some internal notes. The memoQ team may not, if it's not a cloud server, the memoQ team may not particularly care, but it's not going to hurt them to see that. And you're giving yourself a pointer, or your coworkers who are jumping in and keeping that ticket alive. Everyone knows about both of these platforms, I hope. The important thing is that system, memoQ Help Center, is for I need help, I need information, I have a bug to report. This one over here, which is you have to ask to be added to it, I think, still. This is where you say, I would like a new feature. So don't put bugs in the ideas portal, and don't make feature requests in Help Center, is the simple way to think about it. If you're really stuck, there are also these unofficial platforms for getting support. I am not really active on Facebook, but I am a member of the groups.io one. And there's volunteers that will help to write gnarly regular expressions. Like regex heads like myself, it's like a fun little puzzle, so we'll just like volunteer and help people solve a little puzzle. It's like Wordle, but geekier, I guess. There's great people there, but the memoQ team does not officially pay any attention to it, so don't expect to get official support, but these are communities that you can tap into for help. So with that said, I thought I would show a couple examples. This is me 2 years ago knowing full well that you should have one issue per ticket, but being pretty busy and forgetting and just, oh, by the way, there's this other Hunspell thing that we're running into. So past me. Don't do that. This was past me in a way that, sorry, it's a little bit blurry on here, but before the Ideas portal existed, I made a lot of feature requests in, I guess 6 years ago, maybe Kayako, maybe Zendesk. Nowadays, this would be wrong, canonically, because feature requests shouldn't go into the system at all. They should go into the Ideas portal. So if you've put effort using, if you're a long-time user and you've thought of feature enhancement ideas that are just sitting there, ignored, closed, canceled, whatever, I would strongly consider that you look through your list, see which ideas are still meritorious, and consider giving them a fresh coat of paint and posting them to the Ideas portal so that other users can vote on them and you can help the entire community. This is an example of a bug report that someone wrote in the Ideas portal, which is not the right venue to get this sort of thing fixed. This is a fictitious example. This is maybe an average, what someone might tend to write. It's missing a lot of detail. What's that? Yes, priority is missing. Thank you. Anyone else see something that's missing? Yeah, no project details. Anybody else? No screenshots? Yeah. Which MT service? Yes. And also, which MT service, it's not just which MT service, but there's also custom MT and Intento, which offer MT aggregation service. So are you going through one of those or not? Is it a local project? Is it an online project? It matters for firewall reasons. You might be blocked on your firewall. What specific version are you using? Any other ideas? Yeah, which version of Windows and whatnot is also missing, yeah. So I want to just kind of attempt to make it a little bit interactive. This is an example that's decent. It's not the best. It's pretty good, in my opinion. It's got the priority, got a clear summary, clear version numbers. It's mentioning the specific TM technology. It's a legacy TM, not TM+. The big problem, in my opinion, is now you're saying, well, I don't know if I can send you the TM data so that you can reproduce it, but support team, can you make a Japanese to US English TM with 300,000 entries in it? Not really practical. You may think that this is actionable, but it's not really. So if you're having a confidentiality concern, you can do the work on your side. You can use pseudo translation by exporting a TMX file and translating your TM to get rid of the actual sensitive content, munge it in various ways with regular expressions. But there's ways that you can give someone a fighting chance of understanding your data set. This is a report that was made by one of my staff. OK, 4-minute warning. I'll try to pick it up. Who I think this is just about perfect. It's short, it's concise, it has the version number, it contains the full stack trace, there's a sample file, there's a sample filter. Down there at the bottom, there's evidence this happens with any markdown file. He tested for about an hour on like 100 different files to make sure that it happens on every markdown file. That's more extensive than most people would go. The only thing I would say is it's missing priority. Otherwise, A+ David. And by the way, the new markdown filter is really great. We were lucky enough to get early access to it. Found a couple bugs. They're fixed. So thank you, memoQ team, for making markdown a thing. So I'm nearly at the end. Being a bug magnet does have its perks. When we make friends and professional associates at events like this and also through online platforms, do you guys know XKCD? It's a great webcomic. Check this comic. It spoke to me. People discussing bugs and whatnot, and then, hey, one silver lining is that you can end up with new friends through commiserating and collaborating on bugs. So strange bedfellows. So I've written a handful of guides that might be useful to you in your quest to create better bug reports. We're just about out of time. If your server's crashing, if your client's crashing, if you're having a weird issue and you want to get a memory dump of your running process, like a red X is the example, this is a 17-page guide that I wrote a couple days ago, step-by-step how to set it up. This next one is tips, my personal opinions on best practices for how to run memoQ TMS from an IT and security perspective, and a whole bunch of other tips in there, so feel free to check that out. If you don't get a clear picture, I have the QR codes on a piece of paper. Come find me and I'll just let you scan it, but I have to pick up the pace. This is a throwback. Very weirdly, Google suggested this picture to me about a month ago, and this was the very first time that I was ever on a stage in first grade, and there were slightly fewer people then. This was a school presentation, but I just thought it was fun to see things kind of come around. The AI suggested it, so I thought it was prescient and timely to show how things have changed. If you want, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love chatting about memoQ and helping people solve problems just as a volunteer. It's kind of fun for me. So thanks, everybody.